Hi there, welcome to today's painting tutorial. Today we are going to paint a hummingbird with acrylic paints, so let's get started. I'm going to start with a size 0 round brush. Grab your sketch linked in the description below, as well as the brushes and the paint colors. Let's pick up some of this black paint and put in the pupil of the eye. I'm going to leave a little white space for the highlight. I'm going to remove some of that paint and then pick up a little bit of this bluish gray. And then let's go around the black of the eye. And then underneath that, let's pick up a little bit of this beige color and then bring that around and then start to go down a bit of an angle. And now let's pick up some white and put that dot in the center of the eye. Just put a couple dots there. And then I'm going to go around with a little bit of this white and create a little bit of an eyelid. And it's going to mix with the black that was on the brush and create a natural sort of shadow. Okay, I'm going to rinse the brush and let's work on the beak. So let's pick up some more black, mix it with a little bit of this grayish color, and then let's put the bottom part of the beak. And then remove some of the paint. I'm going to pick up this light blue color, then go along the top. And then I'm going to pick up a zero liner brush and some white paint. Let's add a little bit of this light blue in there. Create a light color and see if we can make a line in the center of that beak. Okay. And now let's come down and do the throat area. So I want a dark color. You can have a little bit of black, a little bit of burnt umber, and then let's pick up some of this red. Create a dark red shadow and extend that beak down into this throat area. We can create a shadow there with this dark mix. And then we want to get lighter. I'm going to take some of this dark gray and mix a little bit of the red into that. And then let's bring that down. And that's a nice transitional shadow. And then we want to get lighter, so let's remove that paint on the brush. Pick up a pure red and then start bringing that pure red down. Really nice bright color. And then let's get lighter, so pick up some pink. Pick up some white, and that's going to create pink. And that's going to give you a really beautiful transition there. Okay, and we won't worry about the details of that area yet. So I'm going to bring some of this red into the bottom of this tail, and then let's bring a little bit underneath here too, just so that it bounces around the subject. Okay, let's work on some of the shadow areas. So I'm going to take some of this purple and mix it with the grayish blue, and let's bring this shadow down here. So you have a shadow underneath the chest and over here, bringing that down. And then let's take some straight bluish gray and put that in. And then we can come around this area. And then I want to get lighter, so I'm going to pick up the white and start feathering that white in and allow it to mix with the other colors so we have a transition. Then let's come down this way. Again, try to let it mix and blend. And now let's put some beige in there. You can take this golden beige color, put that along the belly, and then pick up some white and feather that in as well. Okay, and I do have that slow drying medium mixed into the acrylic paint just to help it blend a little bit easier. Now let's do this tail area. So I'm going to continue down. We'll take some of this purple and create a shadow underneath this white area of the tail. Maybe add a little bit of the bluish gray to that just to get some variety. And then pick up that white and then put that in the center. Okay. And we could bring that around this area too a little bit. Just continue that. And now let's work on the wings. So for that, I'm going to let's use this zero liner brush. Take some of this dark brown color. And then I'm going to start outlining some of the wings with this color. It's easier if you start towards the center and then go out. Just going to follow that sketch. And again, that is linked below. And I'm just going over the lines of the sketch here. Let's bring some down here. And let's go around this area. Just bringing some of the structure out of the wings. Okay, that's all we need to do there. And then while it's still wet, let's switch brushes. I'm going to take a size 6 filbert brush. And let's start putting in some shadow. I'm going to use this grayish color, grayish blue. Just start blending that in. And then I'm going to switch to the purple and start filling in the wings with the purple. It's okay if you cover up some of the lines. And then I'm going to pick up some beige, and let's actually mix the beige with the white just to get a lighter value. And let's start putting that in. Just coming in there, filling in the rest of those wing areas. Okay, and then could make a little bit of pink. Let's try to add some red with the white. Let's see if we can just put a little bit of pink in those wings. Okay, so now let's work on the teal area. So I think we can stick with this brush. Let's actually switch to the 0 round to create the top of the head area. So I'm going to take some of this grayish blue and some of this dark gray, and then some of the teal. And let's see if we can get a shadow color. And I'm going to take a little bit of the black just to make it a little more intense. Now let's go around the outside edge of the top of the head. Come down this way. And I'm going to pick up a little more black and intensify that shadow just a little bit. And then let's pick up some teal and maybe some dark gray. Create a little bit of a transition shadow. And then I'm going to pick up straight teal. Bring some of that in, working from the outside towards the inside. And then I want this area to be lighter and more green. So let's put the green in there. And then go for the white. And start putting in the white, just almost like little feathers, little dabs of paint. Okay. And then let's pick up this shadow and put that along this wing in the back. And pick up a little bit of white and add that into the center. And now let's switch brushes. I'll switch to a larger brush, the 6 filbert. And let's start putting in the rest of the body. Before I do that, I'm actually going to put in some beige right here along this line. Maybe a little bit of this brownish red. It's just going to be a bit of an underpainting. Okay, so now let's continue with the shadow. So I have this darker teal color. And let's start putting that in some of the dark areas. We can come down this tail. And I want to get a little bit darker there. So we'll pick up some black and add that in. It's a little intense. So I'm going to dull it a little bit. And then continue with this darker teal. I'm going to pick up some blue and some teal and start feathering that in. And then I'm going to bring that underneath this area here. Be a little bit of black just to create a little more shadow. We'll do more teal and some more bluish gray paint. And then I'm going to switch to the green. And let's start putting some of that green and then I'm going to add some white. Get some lighter feather shapes there. Okay, so that's a good base layer. Let's let that dry and work on the feet. So I'm going to switch to a 0 round. Let's take some black with some gray. And then start painting in these little feet. Just making little claw shapes, and you can follow along with that sketch. Okay, let's let that dry. And then I'm gonna work on the branch. So we'll take some of this darker brown with some black and try to put in that shadow And then pick up some beige and add that in as well. It can be really loose. The branch doesn't have to be your main focal point. And then for the feet, let's take some of this, let's take some white and light blue, and then just put a little highlight, these little lines on top of the claws, just to create a highlight. Okay, so now I want to go back and work on the feathers a little more. I'm going to take a smaller filbert brush. Let's take a size 4. And let's mix up some highlight colors. So let's take some teal and some white. And start putting those in. Just trying to make little feather shapes. I'm going to bring some over here. And then let's do that with the green. So we'll take some green light with some white. Create a nice light color. You could also add a little bit of beige if you wanted some of them to be a little more warm and yellow. So let's pick up these and start putting them just little feather shapes. We'll bring them up here. Could bring a little bit under this area. And then let's bring some up here along the top of the head. So let your brush do the work. And just make these little feather shapes. Okay, and then you could go back with the 0 round and add a bit of a shadow. So you might take some gray, mix it with some of the green, and then you could use that shadow color to go around some of these feather shapes and just define them a little bit more. And if you wanted to define some of the teal areas, you can do that with a dark shadow color. And you're just sort of underlining some of those feathers, and that just makes them pop a little more and come forward. Okay, and over here we can add some shadow just to make some of those feathers come out more. Okay, so now let's pick up, I'm going to use the 0 liner brush. Let's put a few highlights in here. So I'm going to take some white paint, let's mix it with some of this light green that we had. Just want a light color. And I'm going to go back and put in a few highlights. We could go around the eye. Maybe put a few around the top of the head. We can bring some under here. Little curved shaped feathers. And then along some of these wings, could come in with some of that white. And then on some of these feathers, and then down here along the tail, okay. All right, so I think that is it for the main subject. We'll let this dry and then come back and put in a background. Now the painting should be dry. Let's add a simple background. I'm going to use a fan brush. I have some acrylic flow medium here. I'm going to add quite a bit of water and some of this pastel yellow paint. I want to get a really light watery mix. And then I'm going to start putting this yellow in. Trying to go around the edge, and I'm trying not to cover the subject too much, but some overlapping is okay. Grab some more paint. Let's come around this edge. And then go around the top area. Just go around the subject. This fan brush is good because it covers quite a lot of area in a pretty short amount of time. Okay, and then I want to add some blue. So let's take some blue paint, some of this flow medium, and also it's okay if it mixes with some of the yellow. It can create nice green color. I want the colors to mix a little bit. And then more water. Then around this area. Continue to pick up that flow medium and the paint. And just apply this. Okay, I'm going to try to carefully go around the beak. And if you wanted to be really precise, you could use a small brush and go around the edge carefully first, and then use the fan brush to go around that further. Okay, so that is how you can paint a hummingbird and add the background. I hope you get a chance to paint along. Like and subscribe for more painting tutorials. And if you want to dive deeper into acrylic painting, check out my guide in the description below, and we will see you in the next video. Bye.